Hello, tubies! Good Wednesday morning. So, as you can see, our little patch of pumpkin looks a lot happier than it did the 2 weeks ago. Got a bunch of male flowers starting to open up. Ooh, there's a spider there. That's awesome. And got a couple of female flowers opening up too. Got this lady here. Ta-da! Couple of us. Ooh, there's Snoopy. Check him out. He's getting attracted over here already. I like that. So, a couple ways that you can tell it the female flowers. You see here inside the stamen, you can see all these little dots and nubbins. So a female is going to have a bunch of little nubbins, whereas the male, I use this to pollinate this female flower just now. The male only has one nubbin. And if you look under it, it looks like it has a little tiny miniature pumpkin under it. Also, some people wonder how they know that their females are going to open the next day. One way that I have noticed is that, oh my gracious, look, there's 2 more females open. I just saw that. Gracious, gracious, gracious. Can't really get a focus there. Can't really see that that's a female, but that's a female. So one other way that you can tell that your female flower is going to open the next day is that I noticed the ants love the taste of that pollen. So if you find all of a sudden that you get ants attracted to your area, that's probably because there's going to be a female opening the next day. You'll also see they'll get swollen, they'll get a flash of color. They don't make it a secret. For some reason, I've got a lot more female flowers opening than male flowers. So you just saw that one that I had pollinated earlier. And I'm gonna have to hunt for another male flower to pollinate those 2 as I want to make sure that I get my pumpkin worth. Oh my gosh, is that the one that, yeah, that's the one that I just filmed right here. We got one male right here, and I think that female is not going to have a flower to pollinate it. But that's okay. We can take what we can get. So for the first time in all the time that I have been doing this corn, pumpkin, bean mix, I finally got, you see that? I finally got my pumpkin vine to go through the patch of corn. You can see the female flower right there. I don't know why. There's more female flowers this year than male flowers. Usually, the male flowers will start opening up long before the female flowers do. Here, I'll show you a flower that's going to open tomorrow. I just saw it from a distance. This is a male flower. Little ladybug. But you can see, it looks pretty similar when the females are going to open. It's got a slight flush of color, and it's a lot bigger than the flowers before they're ready to open. This is so bizarre. Okay. I started soaking the giant pumpkin a couple of days after I made the last video. Corn is doing really well, by the way. Both of them. This one, the only difference that I have seen so far in the 2 varieties is that this one has thicker stalks, much more chunky stalks. This one has a much thinner stalk, but they are actually kind of starting to thicken out a bit, some of them at least. So back to what I was saying. I was soaking the giant seeds. I did get them to sprout, and then I stuck them inside a couple of makeshift pots. I used paper bags so that I could just plop the whole thing into the ground and not disturb the roots. And they're not out of the soil in the paper bags yet, but I do see that little sort of like disturbance on the top of the soil where it kind of looks like something is starting to push its way out. So it won't be long, and I might do a mid update on that, because I usually update bi-weekly, but I'll probably do an extra update on the giant pumpkins. And when I do that, I'll have the information on which pumpkin it is. And I was actually sent those seeds by a viewer, and I want to make sure I get the channel's name correct, so I'll have the channel's name for you at the same time. The watermelon's finally taking off. You see one vine going this way, and one vine going, I think, this way. And actually, from last year, what the watermelons did is they had a couple of different vines. And then I've got my poop over there. I got my line of poop. So I also soaked the jack-o'-lantern seeds. I hope they're jack-o'-lantern seeds. I did not label them. So we'll see what ends up growing. So I soaked them with what I hope are jack-o'-lantern seeds. Check that guy out. Wait, can you get him? Can you get him? Can you get him? There, that giant guy. Those guys make me nervous. They're too big and they're loud. But I soaked the jack seeds, and they're sprouting inside a napkin right now. And as soon as I find a good sprout on them, then they'll go inside little mounds made of those manures and some homemade compost as well. I'm hearing, I don't know if you can see that, but one of the weeds over there is kind of wiggling. That's a mole. Now thankfully the moles don't seem to be interested in the corn or the pumpkins. I haven't tried out the watermelon yet. The watermelon was in a container last year, so we'll see about that. I've got my tomatoes in containers because I lost a tomato plant, just one tomato plant, to the mole. It didn't like the actual plant, but it liked the roots. So I'm not taking my chances. So I have a couple of tomatoes in containers. But yeah, they don't seem to care about the pumpkins. Look at that. Look at that guy. Look at that guy. Oh my goodness. That guy's intimidating. Did you hear that sound? I'm less intimidated by spiders and roaches and rats and all this stereotypically scary things than I am with that pollinator there. Well, I should go and try to find flowers to pollinate these other two, and let you guys have a good day. And I will see you in 2 weeks, or well, more likely I'll see you when the giant pumpkins sprout. Bye bye. Almost forgot to mention something. So I was watching the Giant Growers, and one of the tips that I heard, or one of the interesting anecdotes that I heard, is that after about 90 degrees, photosynthesis stops on the pumpkin plants. And that would make a lot of sense as to why I had such an abysmal harvest last year, where, if you remember, I got maybe half a dozen very, very small pumpkins. And if that's true, then most of our summer is in the 90s, in the hundreds. And I gotta figure out a way to keep the plants cool, or else it's basically like trying to grow pumpkins in the shade, because none of the sun is turning into sugars for the pumpkins to grow, especially when it comes to the giant pumpkin, because of course that's going to need more energy to reach its full potential. So we've really got to get a move on finding some protection for these guys. I'm glad that these I got put these in early. It was sort of like an experiment. I had to put the pumpkin in the ground at late February because it was already rotting, and it wasn't going to stick around another month for me to wait to put it in the ground. So in the future, I might actually want to plant early and just store all the pumpkins, the harvest that I get for the later months, for decorations and for eating. So that's something that I have to consider in the climate that I'm in now. Alright, that was just something that I had almost forgotten to mention. And I will see you later again.